Hey everyone, thanks for joining me again today. Let's see what's in the basket. Is a life exclusive to pleasure, parentheses, no suffering, worthwhile? Okay, so is a life with only pleasure but no suffering worthwhile? Well, I think the good news is this is purely hypothetical because you're not going to find a life where you never suffer. It's just really not the way that our brains are wired unless you are perhaps impressively enlightened or something. So can suffering be helpful? Yes, absolutely. I think life is often about contrast, and sometimes those low lows help us see the higher highs. And of course, our brains adjust to our current situations. This is called the law of habituation. So we get used to whatever our normal is, and then that's kind of where our emotional baseline is set. And then we move up and down from there. So even just consistent pleasure is pretty much unsustainable because it would require like consistent newness. But of course, we can increase pleasure through things like gratitude practice, through mindfulness, just being really aware of the awesomeness around us and staying grounded in the present moment. Not looking back and regretting the past or dreading things that might come in the future can certainly increase our pleasure if we want to use that term. Of course, it depends on how we're defining pleasure here. But pleasure is not a bad thing. You don't ever have to be like, oh no, pleasure. like all things being equal, pleasure is a positive, and you can trust that suffering will come along to provide that balance. So it's not as if like, oh no, my life is too pleasurable, so I should seek out some suffering. You're certainly not obligated to do that. And of course, there's no guarantee that suffering will produce any sort of positive outcomes. Suffering is what you make of it. And so, when you do suffer, I invite you to use it as a tool that leads to more positives. But just thinking that it necessarily, inevitably will is also, of course, false. Sometimes suffering just leads to more suffering. So as always, your journey is what you make of it. Bring everything onto the path. Find positives where you can. Put a positive spin on the tough times as well, and you'll do just fine. But allow the negative, allow yourself to be sad, allow yourself to feel whatever you feel. Don't try to force it. Don't try to be like, it's my job to be happy, because it's not, right? You just get to have experiences and go with them where you will. So thank you for that question. It's kind of an interesting one. I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and I'll see you back here next time.